Very good evening to all of you. Once again, welcome to a session from BYJU'S Exam Prep. Friends, my name is Srinivas and I'm going to take you through some of the MBA entrance exams, especially for India. I'm going to focus on the entrance exams that students ideally preparing for an MBA should be looking at. Right? My name is Srinivas and I'm from BYJU'S Exam Prep. So friends, let's take a look at the colleges that the exams that we have. So the agenda for this session today is quite straightforward. It's going to be very straightforward. I have about 7 or 8 exams. What I'm going to do right now is start with the CAT, which is the biggest exam as far as MBA is concerned. I'm sure if you're thinking of an MBA degree at a college, definitely you would be thinking of CAT. But apart from that, I'm going to talk about what are the other 5 or 6 exams that you can write, which will make sure that you get an entry possibility into the top 25-30 colleges in the country. Okay. About these exams, I'm going to talk about the basic pattern, basic idea of a pattern. I'm going to talk about when are these exams conducted. I will talk about how many options are there. What is the unique feature about these exams? Right? So that's what I'm going to do today. So let's go ahead, start with the biggest exam of them all. Okay? So we're going to talk about the exam called CAT. So as I said, CAT is the biggest exam. Anybody who thinks of an MBA in India, they definitely will be writing. Whether you write CAT or not, you'll at least prepare for CAT. Right? Now, the biggest colleges, of course, all the IIMs take admission only through CAT. You want to get into an IIM for a 2-year program, the traditional 2-year program, definitely you have to write this exam called CAT, right? Very good evening to you, Prajwal and Song Creator. Okay, whoever that name, whatever that name is. So what happens in this CAT exam? It's basically an exam with 3 sections. The 3 sections are verbal ability and arts. So basically this has reading comprehension and verbal logic. Okay. Then it has data interpretation, logical reasoning and quantitative aptitude. These are the 3 sections. These 3 sections are always in this particular order only. The first is always verbal English, second is always DILR and the third is always quant. So this exam gives you these 3 sections with time limit. So each section has a particular number of minutes. So if you notice the thing that I mentioned over here, 24 and 34, what did I write here? What is the meaning? So we will call this CAT as pre-pandemic, which is pre-2020. So that is up to 2019. And post-pandemic, which is 2020 and 2021. So up to 2019, the pattern that used to be followed was like this: 34 questions in English, 32 questions in DILR, and 34 questions in quant. And the time limit per section used to be 1 hour each. 1 hour, 1 hour, and 1 hour. This was the paper pattern. Last year and the last before year, the pattern has changed. In fact, 2020 and 2021 CAT is also not the same. But let's just talk about the most recent CAT, which is the last year November CAT, about 5 months back. In that particular exam, English was for 24 questions, DI was for 20 questions, and quant was for 22 questions. And the time limit per section was 40 minutes. 40, 40 and 40 minutes. Okay. So this year what's going to happen? You might be wondering, and even I am wondering. There's no answer to that. The reason being, my expectation is if things become kind of normal, I don't think we can get back to proper normalcy by November, but if the number of cases, we have seen the slight increase right now, but if the number of cases reduce or they become kind of acceptable, we can expect CAT to go back to this 1 hour per section pattern. But if the cases increase and we have a problem in the month of October or September, they will probably stick with this 24, 20 and 22. That's the total of 66 questions and 40-minute pattern. So these are the 2 types of exams that can be expected as far as CAT is concerned. Two models. Frankly, if you ask me right now, I can't predict the future. So ideally, if you are a student preparing for CAT, I would say write both models of exam. They are a bit different because in terms of your endurance, you have to stay focused for 3 hours in the older pattern. In the recent pattern, you have to have it only for 2 hours. So that's a complete 1 hour of your focus that you need to practice more. So yes, writing mocks. If you're writing mocks from the month of May onwards, I would suggest you practice both types. In fact, if you are a student of BYJU'S already, BYJU'S exam prep, you will notice that the mocks that are coming your way will have older pattern and newer pattern. It's a mix. Some mocks will be of the older pattern, some mocks will be of the newer pattern, so that nothing is taken by surprise for you. Right? The marking scheme is 3 marks for a correct answer, -1 for a negative, for a wrong answer. If you make a mistake, it's -1, and of course, if you leave it unattempted, it is 0 marks. The unique aspect of this particular paper is there are theta questions. What are theta? That is type in the answer. So this is one of the papers, one of the very few exams that I've come across, which gives few questions where you'll have a question, there'll be a statement, and there are no options. There will just be a square or a rectangular box there, and you're supposed to type your answer here. So especially if you take quant, if they say, okay, what is this value, and you get the answer as 27, so you're supposed to type 27. So there'll be a on-screen keypad given there with numbers mentioned. So you have to type 2 and 7 and move on to the next question. So that's called as theta. I don't think any other MBA entrance exam has this theta kind of questions. Okay, you don't have to show any working, you just have to show the final answer there. Okay, yes, this has sectional time limit and sectional cutoff, which means you have to perform well in all the 3 sections for you to get the respective college that you're going to get into. So talking about colleges, I already mentioned there are all the IIMs are accepting only through CAT. Apart from IIMs, people always talk about IIMs, but there are a ton of colleges which accept CAT scores and are in the top 20-25 in the ranking. You have your Faculty of Management Studies, FMS Delhi, probably rated as high as any of the top IIMs. It's one of the cheapest colleges to get into. In fact, you can finish your entire 2-year MBA program, tuition fees within about 2 lakhs. In fact, less than that, if I remember it correctly. SP Jain, Mumbai, one of the very good, one of the top-notch colleges, one of the top 10 for sure. Similarly, NITI, one college which basically says that engineers are welcome into my college. In fact, they say that they take only engineers. Similarly, you have the IITs, IIT Bombay and IIT Delhi being the top ones. Then you have MDI Gurgaon, JBIMS. All of these colleges do accept CAT scores. So if you are aspiring to get into this, and these are some of the top colleges, the list goes on. So yes, if you are looking at any of these colleges, writing CAT is a must. Okay, that's about the exam. The exam date. This has been standard. They always conduct the exam on the last Sunday of November. Always, it's always been like that. Okay, so you can look up the calendar, look at what is the last Sunday, and you know the date. The announcement is going to be in the month of July end or August first week, but the date more or less is certain. Okay, so that's about CAT. Now I'm not going to talk too much about the difficulty levels and all, because that's not the purpose of this. This session is dedicated to talking about the various entrance exam and what happens in these entrance exams. What are the unique features of these entrance exams? Okay, before we move on, my friends, if you guys are interested in our sessions, you want to be notified about a lot more of these sessions that we have planned, well, please click on the bell icon. We will make sure that you have a lot more information coming your way. If you like this particular session, please click on the like button so that we come to know that the session has been liked by you. Let's move on, take a look at the next exam. The second biggest exam is XAT, Xavier's Aptitude Test. It's an exam to get into the best, one of the best colleges called XLRI Jamshedpur. Okay, now XLRI Jamshedpur happens to be in the top 5-6 as far as the ranking go. Various rankings will give it, some of them say it's 3rd, 4th, 5th, whatever it is. But basically, you can say it is in the top 5 for sure. It's a college, worthy of any student that way. SP Jain again. So something about SP Jain, it takes CAT score and or XAT score. So you can apply through CAT or through XAT depending upon which exam went well for you for SPJ. Okay. Then MICA, Mudra Institute of Communications in Ahmedabad. Then you have XIM. Then you have IMT Ghaziabad, KG Somaya, Great Lakes. So these are the other colleges which accept. Again, there are a lot of colleges. These are not the only ones, but yeah, these are the top in that group of colleges accepting the XAT score. Right, now let's take a look at the pattern. The pattern here, again, there are 3 sections, VA plus LR. So here they combine verbal ability and logical reasoning into a section, and there are totally 26 questions in this. There is a new section called decision making. Now, this decision making as a section does not exist in any other exam. Okay, it's a very, very unique part of this particular exam called XAT, and this actually throw the people off their balance or off their game, because this is not your traditional English, logic or maths. Okay, people who are scoring good in CAT would still find a problem in XAT, especially because of this section, especially if you do not focus on this. And there are a good 21 questions that come over here. Then the third section happens to be QA plus DI, which happened last year. We had a total of 27 questions coming over here. The thing about this exam is there are going to be 5 options, so you can't, even at 4 options you should not randomly guess, but here being 5 options, randomly guessing is ruled out anyway. Now the thing that I like about XAT, and this is my personal statement, I would not say this exam is better over that exam, but I personally feel that having no sectional time limit, I like an exam which leaves it open. So I can maximize my score by going to a section which I like. At the same time, they keep sectional cutoffs. So it's like saying that, okay, you answer whatever you want, but make sure that you get minimum in every section. So it tests the real ability of a student to manage time based on his or her ability or strengths. That's one of the beautiful parts about this exam that I like, which unfortunately does not happen in CAT. CAT basically forces you to spend that 40 minutes or 1 hour per section, irrespective of whether you're good at it or bad at it. Typically what happens in XAT, and the difference between XAT and CAT is, if I'm good at maths, I would probably want to spend some extra time to get some extra questions here and spend less time in verbal ability and logical reasoning, making sure that, okay, some basic marks I get in English, let's say I attempted 10 questions or 14 questions, I don't want to attempt more because I know that that's not my strength. I would rather spend that time and get more corrects in DILR, thereby shooting up my total. But why do I still have to attempt 14, 15? Because I need to clear my cutoff. So that's a very nice judgment that I have to make based on my strengths and the requirement of cutoff. So that cannot be, that won't happen in CAT. So that's one of the reasons why I like XAT over CAT as an exam. One other thing is, so this is for 1 hour 65 minutes, and once this first 3 parts are completed, let's call it as part 1, then there is a part 2 that starts. This is part 1 completes in 165 minutes, and here, because there is no sectional time limit, as I said, you can go from section to section. You can just click on the button or the what do you call interface which has DILR mentioned in it, or QA plus DI mentioned on it, and you'll start getting the quant section. You can go back to English, you can go to decision making, and so on and so forth. Then once the first part is completed, you will be given 25 GK questions separately and in 15 minutes. Now, if you ask me why are these GK questions given, because these GK questions do not have any marks, to be very honest, and as far as I know, these GK questions are not considered in your first level of interview. Okay, these GK questions are not considered in your in getting your interview call. So they don't really matter much, but yes, that's there as a part. I think they have now started to include this GK in the second part of the 5% weightage. I need to remember that and check that once again this year, are they doing it or not. But yeah, more or less GK as far as getting your interview call is concerned doesn't really matter. What matters is, yes, getting your basic minimum cutoff in each one of these 3 sections in the first part of the paper, and your overall score also being at a high level. Okay, the marking scheme is quite interesting here. You have 1 mark for every correct answer. You have a negative 0.25 for every wrong answer, and this is one of the exams which gives negative 0.1 for a question that is left unattempted. This is again something unique about this exam. So it forces students to make a decision. Should you randomly mark or should you let it be? let it go and then still get a confirmed negative. Now this thing is, they mentioned that up to 8 questions you can leave with 0 marks. 9th question onwards, you will start getting minus 0.1 for every question left. So if you have left 15 questions, so up to 8 questions, there is no problem. This means you have an extra 7 questions that you left out. Each question will be minus 0.1, so you will get minus 0.7 marks. Okay, so you'll have to make a decision in the exam there. Should you take a guess or should you get a confirmed minus 0.1? So that's one of the things that you need to take care of. And the other thing is decision making. As I said, that's another unique aspect. Decision making does not talk about typical English or logic or your DI or maths. It talks about real life scenarios. It talks about business scenarios. Usually what's tested here is your ability to think given that particular scenario. There's no, yes, there are certain calculation based questions also, but what happens usually, in fact, there's a nice question that I remember. They spoke about a real life instance where you came across a complaint from your neighbor saying that the common maid is actually stealing money. So in that case, how do you handle the situation? There are 3-4 options. Again, there's no calculation there. There's no English that you need to worry about or grammar there. It's all about, okay, given this scenario, how do you handle this? What is the best approach? So that is about decision making. So that's how XAT is different. Now when it comes to exam date, again, like CAT, they have always stood on, or the exam is always conducted on the first Sunday of January every year. So it becomes easy for students to know or expect the date. They don't randomly keep varying left, right and center. At least CAT and XAT have made sure that their dates are more or less finalized. Okay, so that's about the second weakest exam. The third exam, again, from here onwards, I'm not talking about which exam is better, which exam is, there's no superior or inferior comparison anymore. I'm just giving you the exams which are there, which a student should focus on. The next exam is IIFT, Indian Institute of Foreign Trade. It's an exam for a single college, and IIFT definitely happens to be in the top 10 colleges or top dozen colleges in India for sure. It's a college which has a reputation of its own. It's carved an issue for itself. It's something which almost all organizations know of. They value it a lot. So this again is an exam that does not have sectional time limit like XAT, but it has cutoff requirement, and the total time is for 2 hours. So what are the sections? One of the things about this IIFT exam is every year the number of questions keep varying. So sometimes they give 110, sometimes they give 115, sometimes they give only 106, and the numbers are sometimes so odd. It's not a round figure. Sometimes you give 107. You might question, why is there 107? I don't know, but yes, that's how they give. So last year what happened was quant was 25. This is only last year. This is not what happens every year. As I said, every year it keeps varying. Maths was 25 questions. VARC was 35. Logical reasoning and data interpretation was 30. In this exam, GK questions are counted in terms of marks. In XAT, the GK scoring does not happen, whereas in your IIFT, GK is scored. So you have 20 questions with marks for them. In fact, the marking scheme is for these 3, Quant, English and LRDI, it is +3 for every correct answer, -1 for every wrong answer, and 0 for every unattempted question. Whereas for GK alone, the marks are slightly lower. 1.5 marks for every correct question, -0.5 for every wrong answer, and 0 for unattempted. Okay, so that's what happened, and it's a 2-hour exam. So that's basically the structure of your IIFT. What's unique? Yes, GK section score is considered. It is a game changer for students who follow newspaper. Remember, the cutoff, and if I tell you the cutoff of GK, it goes somewhere between 2 to 3 marks, which means if 2 to 3 marks, not questions, which means if you get 2 correct and nothing else wrong, you're through. So that's how poor students, that's one way of looking at it. That's how poor students are in terms of GK, those who are preparing for MBA. But if you are a student who's been reading paper over the last 5-6 months, you don't have to really mug up things. But if you've been following the newspaper, you can easily get 7-8 questions, taking a total to 12 marks or 14 marks, getting a significant advantage over others who are that way weak in GK. Okay, because while you're supposed to have individual cutoffs, your total score can be boosted up because of your GK. So please keep that in mind as far as your IIFT is concerned. And there's a good time for you to start preparing for your IIFT also with respect to your GK. Typically, if you look at, they ask what happened in the last 7-8 months as your current affairs. And of course, static GK, there's no limit. They can ask you anything and everything from anywhere. The exam can happen either in November, December or Jan. It can happen anytime. If you look at the last 3 years, in fact, it happened in every one. I mean, it happened once in November, it happened once in December, it happened one of the years it happened in January. It happened only once every year, but yeah, different months in different years. Okay, so there's no consistency that way. They keep varying. In fact, last year, I remember correctly, despite knowing that CAT gives out its notification, and always it has been on the last Sunday, last year or last before year, they also came ahead and gave their date clashing with CAT, and they had to later change the date to 1 week before or 1 week after CAT. Or 2 weeks after CAT, I think last year only, that's what happened last year. So yes, because they knew that if there is a clash between IIFT and CAT, people would definitely write CAT over IIFT, because here, logically speaking, there is only one college that will take admission, whereas CAT, there are a lot of colleges that take their admission. So you can't compete in that kind of a scenario, so they had to change their dates. I've got Krishna saying, above email is good. I don't have an email. Is there an email ID mentioned here? I didn't understand what you're saying, Krishna. Can you please be a bit more clear? Anyway, so let's continue with the next exam. The next exam is NMAT. Once again, an exam which is for a college called Narsimunji Institute of Management Studies, NMIMS, Bombay. One of the, again, highly rated colleges. In the top 15 in the country. Being in Bombay, it's a bit costly, but again, it's worth getting into depending upon what options you have, but definitely worth considering. This exam, the pattern, so this exam is called NMAT, and for those of you who know about GMAT, it is kind of similar to GMAT. I'm not talking about GMAT right now in this session, because that's not typically for Indian exam, Indian 2-year MBA programs. It's for Indian executive programs, so I'll talk about that later. But yes, NMAT is also conducted by the body called GMAT. So that's what basically, that's the reason why it is kind of similar to GMAT. But what happens in NMAT? So there are language skills, quant and logic skills. 5 options in NMAT, 36 questions, 36 and 36. And in this exam, there is a sectional time limit and it also has a cutoff. The sectional time limit, English, is 28 minutes. So you can see 36 questions and 28 minutes, not too much of time. 36 maths and 52 minutes, again not much of time. You don't have, you barely have 1.5 minutes per question. And logic, 36 questions and 40 minutes. So this is an exam which focuses on speed for sure. You can see that the number of questions and the time limit given to you is the relation is actually much lower with respect to the other exams. Marking scheme is similar to GMAT. Now, what is similar to GMAT here? So that's the beauty here. There is no negative marking in this exam, or you don't say there is positive or negative anymore. They basically follow the standard of GMAT, and in GMAT what happens is every question, depending upon its difficulty level, has been given a particular score. So it all depends on how many of what type of questions have you answered in a particular section. So that's what matters in GMAT, in MAT. So you don't say it's +1 and -1.3 or -0.33 or something like that. There is no positive or negative concept here. The exam talks about, okay, what is the overall difficulty of questions that you got correct? What is the overall difficulty of questions that you got wrong? And thereby, based on that, you will be getting a score. Okay, so the calculation process is opaque. It's not transparent. They do not publish the calculation process. Okay, I've got 1 or 2 more questions coming my way. Are there any offline BYJU'S coaching in Hyderabad for CAT? Krishna, we don't have offline right now for CAT. It's only online, unfortunately. Do top IIMs or other top colleges have good weightage to graduation marks? Yes, Vijay, there are. In fact, I have taken a session some time back, in fact 2 days back, where I spoke about graduation scores and do they matter. Okay, so please take a look at that session. I have covered extensively about what kind of graduation score is required, or what is which of these colleges have a weightage for graduation. And yes, quite a few colleges have graduation marks weightage, but again, a lot of them, quite a few of them don't have also. So don't be dejected if you have bad score, and don't be overtly excited if you have good score. Okay, as I say, both, there are colleges this way and that way, so focus on CAT for now. Right. What is unique about this? The thing about this is you can write this exam thrice in a year, and the other thing is this exam continuously happens for 3 months. The months from October to December, October, November, December, every day there is this exam happening, and a student can book the exam thrice. And the beauty is you will be getting the marks between or among the 3 different slots that you're writing in. If you can write, the best of the 3 will be considered. The best of the 3. So let us say the first time you wrote and for some reason you are not satisfied with what happened in the exam, you can book your slot and go and write the second time or the third time even, and the best of these 3 will be considered. Okay, but again, it's not writing for free. You have to pay the money every time you're writing the exam. That's the catch there. The other thing which is unique about this exam is, which is similar to GMAT again, is you can choose what order these sections should appear. Now, if you're looking at CAT, the order is fixed. You can't change the order. If you're looking at IIFT or XAT, it doesn't matter what order, because there is no sectional time limit, so you can jump across sections. Whereas in NMAT, there is a sectional time limit, so you can't jump from section to section and then back again. However, you can decide what should be the order of your 3 sections. So that option is there. This is one of the exams which has a sectional time limit and also allows you to choose where to start with or what to start with. So that's quite unique about this particular exam. And yes, as I said, this exam happens over 3 months. Job experience is required for MBA. Krishna, typically speaking, freshers do get in. In fact, 20 to 25% of all the good colleges have 0 work experience or less than 1 year work experience, guys. If you look at people with 0 to 1 year, less than 1 year, under 1, which includes freshers, complete freshers also, there will be about 20 to 25% in most of the top colleges. So data says that you don't need a work experience for an MBA, but yes, if you have a work experience, you will get certain benefits. But that does not mean that people without work experience will be thrown out. Clear, Krishna? So that's about your NMAT. The next is SNAP, basically Symbiosis National Aptitude Online Test. It's an exam to get into the Symbiosis set of colleges. The top colleges happens to be SIBM Pune, Bangalore and Hyderabad, then SEMHRD. In fact, the top colleges is SIBM Pune. The next best college is SEMHRD, then comes your SIBM Bangalore, then SIIB, then SIOM Operations Management. So you have a lot, again, there are a lot more other colleges also that I have not mentioned, but yeah, these 4 are worthy of a mention over here. This pattern, in fact, this is one of the shortest exams as far as MBA exams go that I have come across. It's only 60 minutes. There is no sectional time limit and there is no sectional cutoff. That's the beauty about this exam. Right, 60 minutes you're done. They say, okay, come finish it off and get out. I don't want to waste too much of your time. Whatever you want to prove it in an hour and get out of my eyesight. So that's kind of an exam it is. You have English, analytical reasoning and logical reasoning, quant and DI, 15 questions, 25 questions and 20 questions, adding up to a total 60. So basically it's a exam which is of where speed is of essence. 60 questions, 60 minutes, so it's 1 question per minute. That's the average you're looking at. And the marking scheme is +1 and -0.25 with no marks or 0 marks for leaving the questions or leaving them unattempted. Okay, you can write this exam twice, like NMAT thrice. Here it is twice, and the best of the 2 will be considered. This exam happens, as I said, but again, NMAT happens over 3 months continuously, whereas SNAP happens only twice. You can decide whether you want to write both the times or not. Thrice. It happens thrice. You can choose to write on any 2 of the 3 times. Once it happens in December and twice it happens in January. It does not happen every day. It happens only 3 times. Once in December, twice in January. You can decide which of these 2 slots you can write. Okay, and the best of the 2 will be taken as your score. So that's about your SNAP exam. The next is TISSNET, an exam which is for getting into the Tata Institute of Social Sciences. Again, if you are a student who's thinking of economic studies or HR, one of the best colleges. I mean, I don't think there's any college which is as good as Tata when it comes to economics as well as HR. So if you are of that domain, if you want to get into that domain, yes, this is an exam you should write called TISSNET. This TISSNET once again does not have sectional time limit and it does not have cutoffs, sectional cutoff that is. Overall cutoff obviously will be there. No sectional cutoff. The time is 100 minutes. 1 hour 40 minutes adding up to 100 minutes. And the total questions, English, maths and logic together is 60. And the big thing about this exam is 40 questions of GK. 40 questions of GK. Okay. Now the other unique thing about this exam is there is no negative mark, so you can actually attempt all 100. So you have +1 for correct and 0 for unattempted or wrong questions, or wrongly marked. So you can definitely attempt everything. Now one other thing which is unique about this exam is, while there is no sectional cutoff for English and math, for GK they say you have to get minimum 35%. Now remember, 35% of 40 is what? 30% is 12 plus 10% is 4, half of that is 2. So you need 14 questions or 14 marks out of 40. So GK you are expected to get minimum 14, otherwise you don't qualify. That is for general category. Similarly 30% here, and there's no such requirement for SC ST. So depending upon your category, you will have to look at getting a minimum score. Okay, now this is where the students will falter. No matter how good you are, you can get even 30 and 30, 60 out of 60 here. But if you don't get 15 or 14 to be precise in your GK, you will not clear a cutoff. That's the problem. Okay, so that's the thing. So the unique thing is no negative marking and the sectional cutoff only for GK, not for other areas. And this exam happens only once, and it happens in the month of February. Right, so that's about your TISS. In fact, the thing is, TISSNET is the first exam. People who qualify here will have a second exam for an MBA called TISSMAT. I have not mentioned about that, but because that is a second level of exam, TISSMAT, it is only for people who qualify the basic requirement in TISSNET. Okay, but I have not mentioned that. We'll talk about it completely. We have a different session. In fact, we're going to do a lot of sessions about each exam in detail sometime later. Moving on, the next exam is MICAT. It's basically an admission for MICA College, which is basically Mudra Institute of Communication. So this unique thing about this exam is there are 3 sections, or let's call it as 3 parts. Part 1, Part 2 and Part 3. Part 1 is psychometric analysis, or psychometry is what they call. It is 150 questions of psychometry. And this is the only MBA entrance exam that I have come across which asks you psychometric questions. Now, what is psychometric questions? It is not maths, it is not decision making, it is not logic, it is not English, it is nothing that you have come across till now on your normal exams. Basically, psychometric talks about it's to evaluate your personality. Now, the way in which, I'll give you a simple example of how it behaves or how the questions are made. So, if they ask you a direct question, are you an introvert? Obviously, you'll say no, right? Because you know that as a manager, you blah, 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 you want to be a leader, you want to talk a lot, you cannot be an introvert. Fine. Then they will ask you twisted questions. So, they'll ask you to assess what your answer is. They'll say, okay, they'll give you a situation, how will you behave in this situation? So, they'll say, okay, let us say that there's a discussion happening. Your friend said this or your colleague said this, your other colleague said this. What would you do in such a situation? And there'll be 4 options. I'll keep silent. I'll probably agree with one of them. I will try to balance the argument, something like that. So they will ask you a question. They will see what your response is, direct question, and they'll ask you 4 or 5 questions subsequently, or strewn across the exam of these 150 questions, where the same question is asked you in twisted different ways. And they'll try to see whether your initial answer for a direct question is matching the twisted scenarios that they are given. At the end of the day, if you are a particular kind of person and you're answering truly, irrespective of how I give the situation to you, your answers will be consistent. So that's what psychometry tries to do. The next thing is descriptive test. So again, this is one of the unique things about this exam, the only other MBA entrance exam which has actually descriptive written answer. Okay, now that is required because you're talking about communication. It's a college which gives excellent courses for marketing and advertisement. So people who want to get into this college have to show that you have that particular acumen of writing, or descriptive test is about writing. So there are different ways in which the questions will be formed. One of the example of the question is very famous question that they ask. They will show 4 or 5 random images, and actually they are not random. There is a particular way in which they are arranged, and you are supposed to write an essay in a particular number of words connecting all the 4 or 5 images. So they want to see what way can you think and how will you articulate it. So that's what happens in descriptive. Again, we are going to have a complete session on MICA sometime later, talking about each one of these sections in detail. That's your second part. And the third part is your traditional aptitude, which is English 20, Quant DI 20, and general awareness. So there is GK here, which is 20 questions, and reasoning 20. Now, one of the things which happened last year is the number of options, and they mentioned this on their website also, the number of options keep changing from question to question. In fact, last year, there were questions in English and Quant which had 8 options. 8 options. Guys, people get confused with 4 options. They gave 8 options, 7 options, 6 options randomly all over the place. That's one of the unique things about this particular exam. Again, this paper has sectional time limit. You will be looking at in this part. So if you're talking about this aptitude part, yes, this is 150 minutes. This 150 questions, sorry. 150 questions should be completed in 30 minutes. 25 minutes for this descriptive, written form of the part of the exam, and 1 hour 20 minutes for this entire section of aptitude put together. So within aptitude, there is no time limit, but first part, second part, third part will clearly have different time limits. So the aptitude part is basically 80 minutes, that's 1 hour 20 minutes. And the total, all these 3 combined, you will be sitting for 2 hours 15 minutes. So the whole idea is, once you get into the exam for 2 hours 15 minutes, you can't come out. So your exam starts with the 150 questions, 30 minutes. Once this is over, automatically the second one will start descriptive, 25 minutes. Once this is over, then the aptitude part will start for 80 minutes. Okay, so the marking scheme is +1 minus 0.25. Once again, there is negative marking, so you should not go ahead and blindly mark. The unique thing is, yes, I already mentioned, one of the only exams with descriptive answers. Now, the other thing about this is not the only thing. They say you should write this exam MICAT. Apart from that, we will also give weightage to CAT. Apart from that, not this or that. You can choose to write CAT, XAT, or GMAT. One of the 3 exams you should write. You will have, or you will get an interview call based on your MICAT score, and also based on one of these. So this exam, so 2 exams will be considered. MICAT and one of these 3 exams will be considered to give you a final interview call. Apart from that, there are 2 other factors. I'm not getting into the selection criteria, as I mentioned. That's not the whole purpose here. We'll talk about selection criteria completely differently for TISS once again. But yeah, for MICAT once again. But yeah, the whole idea here is, yes, they will consider CAT score also, or CAT, XAT or GMAT score, and your MICAT score also. So the exam date, it happens twice, once in December and once in January. It happens twice in a year. Okay, so that's what happens in MICAT. Moving on, next exam is CMAT. So I have 2 more exams, CMAT and MHCET, that I'm going to talk about. CMAT is basically one of the top one of the exams to get into the top colleges like JBIMS. JBIMS happens to be in the top 10 in the country for sure. But the other colleges over here are not in the top 15 or 20 also, to be honest. But yes, if you're looking at Bombay specific colleges, or Maharashtra specific colleges, yes, Simsri, University of Pune, Great Lakes, Goa Institute of Management, KJ Somaya, BIT Misra, BIMTech. So these are the colleges which actually give admission through CMAT. So if you're thinking of these colleges, again, these are some of the colleges, a lot of other colleges which are taking admissions through CMAT. So think of CMAT if you want to get into these colleges. Now, one of the things, the reason why people write CMAT or MHCET is basically JBIMS takes both the scores, but it gives only 15 seats through CAT. So JBMS has about 120 or about 150 intake, and only 15 students will get through CAT, which means at a 99.9 your CAT score, at a 99.9 percentile, your JBMS is done. It's closed for CAT. But through CMAT and through MHCET, you will have few more options. But again, even at in CMAT, you will be requiring to get a 99.9 percentile anyway. But at least you have an option saying that, okay, I have more seats available for CMAT through CMAT or or MHCET. Okay, so the pattern here is there are 5 sections adding up to 100. So English 20, Maths and DI 20, Logic 20, GK 20, and there is a new section which was introduced this year called Innovation and Entrepreneurship, and there are 20 questions here. Totally there will be 100 questions, 4 options each, no sectional time limit and no sectional cutoffs. Now the total time for the exam is 3 hours. Marking scheme is +4 and -1. Now this is one of the exams that you can finish the fastest, quickest. Now if you remember, SNAP I said is the fastest exam because in 60 minutes, whether you like it or not, the exam gets over. Here it's the other way around. You will finish the exam in probably 1 hour or one and a half hour max, but you will have 3 hours left. So you can actually sleep for an hour. There are a lot of students you will see who will be sleeping in the exam because 3 hours is an overkill for these 100 questions. Right, so you'll notice that in fact I've taken a lot of sessions on CMAT. You can refer to some of them about the CMAT strategy. I explained to you why 3 hours is too much. While it looks 100 questions, 180 minutes, not too much, but actually if you see what is happening within these 100 questions, you'll realize that okay, 3 hours is too much for that. The exam happens only once and it happens in the month of April. The last exam we're going to talk about is MAHCET, that is Maharashtra CET. Once again, the set of colleges which take admission through MAHCET is JBIMS, Sidnam, Velinkar, XIMR, University of Pune. Again, if you're thinking of Maharashtra specific colleges, please get into this. Or rather, should write this exam. The pattern is again 200 questions, 75 from Logic, 50 from Quant and DI, Abstract Reasoning 25, and English 50. 5 options, no sectional time limit, but it has a sectional cutoff. So you, again, my kind of an exam where they leave it open to you, but make sure that you get minimum marks in every section. 2.5 hours is the time, so that's basically 150 minutes and 200 questions. So this is an exam where speed is of the essence. Okay. The marking scheme is +1 and 0, which means you should go ahead and attempt everything. Do not leave anything. Okay. There is no negative marking. That's the unique part of this. And okay, this is something which is quite unique for this exam. The paper is jumbled, which means you will have a quant, you will have a LRDI, you will have a English, you can have another English, you will have next quant. So the order of the questions is all jumbled up. There is no such thing called as English section per se. If you want English, you have to keep searching within the 200. Where is my English? Where is my English? And they do not come one after the other. There will be 3 questions in one place. There will be 2 questions in one place. 1 more question in another place. 5 questions in another place. In fact, last year, even RC, the 4 questions of RC were not there together. Or 5 questions of RC. In fact, they give 6 questions if I am not mistaken. The 6 questions of one reading comprehension was not there together. They mixed it all up. That also happened. Anyway, so this exam happens in May, which means for this year admission, the exam is yet to happen, right? So in fact, we are conducting MHCET. If you are interested in this and if you have applied to this exam this particular year, We are conducting a lot of MHCET based sessions in this month, and that is in the month of April we have conducted. We are going to conduct a lot of them in the month of May also. So please subscribe to our channel. You will keep getting the notifications. Right? So friends, that's basically about the top MBA entrance exams. Yes, there are a few more exams which I could have covered, but I have not covered because of the time factor. I didn't want the session to be too long. But yeah, a little bit about our classes. We have started CAT MBA online classes. These are live classes, synchronous sessions, where the faculty will be there talking to you and interacting with you the way you are interacting with me right now. So it's not a recorded. You will also get recorded sessions separately, which are different from the online live classes. The entire package is a mixture of live classes and a set of recorded sessions which are different from the live ones. Okay, so that's basically what we have in store for you. If you're interested, please call into this number and get enrolled for the product. So my friends, if you've liked the session, please click on the like button, comment, leave your comments. I'll be there to help you guys out. Share the video with your friends so that they get to know and understand what BYJU'S is doing for a lot of you guys out there for MBA. Thank you and see you in the next session.